Hey guys, so I come to you with a kind of a chatty check-in, I suppose. It's my spring break this week, and I was thinking I would try to do some more substantial review videos, but with everything that's been going on, I think I'm just a little bit too distracted to put in the focus to make, like, real review videos. So I thought instead I would just do a sort of casual, chatty kind of video, and not put the pressure on myself for a review video. And I haven't made a video in a couple of weeks. Again, I returned from my little hiatus with my February wrap up, and then last weekend I just didn't feel like I had much to say, and I think that's a little bit of a continuation of the feeling of burnout I was having, which instigated my little hiatus. If you guys follow my channel, you probably saw like that I was making like a ton of videos in the early part of this year. For the first couple of months, I was making 3 or 4 videos a week, which is kind of nuts, given that I'm also in grad school and that I get exercise, go to the ice rink to skate, and all these things. It was just kind of a lot, and so I think I just got burnt out and needed a break, and I think I haven't quite recovered from that. So doing a chatty video like this is a good antidote to feeling any sort of pressure to that might be preventing me from making a video because of the burnout. Because I think when you combine perhaps some fatigue from burnout with putting pressure on yourself, that's just a way to set yourself up for failure, I think. But anyway, and also I've been very distracted with everything going on, obviously. I don't need to tell any of you what's going on. Here in Iowa, we have 17 cases when I last, or 18 cases when last I looked. And none of them are in my county. None of them are in Des Moines yet, although the mayor of Des Moines has declared a state of emergency. And we have had our first instance of community spread, so it is getting a lot more real for me just here. All the stores are out of toilet paper, but also out of hand sanitizer. Anyway, but I've just been doing basically what I would usually be doing on spring break anyway, basically. Staying home and just reading and watching movies as well, and listening to music, and just kind of hanging out, going out as little as possible. I did go to the grocery store one more time, kind of overwhelming, just because it's like you hear about places all over the world being affected by this intensely, and governments taking these massive actions to curtail it, and it just all becomes so kind of surreal. But yeah, so it's a little bit crazy, but I've actually been dealing with it remarkably well, I think. Usually when there's some sort of a big thing like this going on, I get really, really stressed out. I've just always been someone who gets really, really anxious about big stuff happening in the world. I still remember being like 9 years old and finding out what global warming was, and spending the next few years just losing my mind over the end of the world due to global warming, which is not what a 9-year-old should be thinking about, but that's just how I've always been. Yeah, and so whenever something big like this happens, I usually get very anxious, but I've actually been doing, I think, a really good job of keeping myself calm again, staying at home, washing hands, not touching the face, etc., etc. And I think for me, what's important is finding out what is under my control and focusing on that, because hearing about the number of people who are dying in Italy, for example, the number of new cases in different places in the United States, and so on and so forth. None of it is under my control, really. All I can do is do the little things that an individual can do, which I'm sure you've all heard of. Again, I've already sort of listed them out. And yeah, so once I realized that, it became a lot less stressful to me. I mean, obviously I still acknowledge the seriousness of it, but now that I feel like I'm sort of doing what I need to do to do my part to hopefully alleviate the situation in some, fractional way, I'm doing fine. And I'm actually, to be honest, I'm kind of enjoying my time just sort of alone in my apartment. The past 3 mornings, I have just woken up and turned on some music, some classical music, and read. I've been plowing my way through Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy and Cultural Amnesia by Clive James. Been reading 50 pages of both of them per day. And yeah, each morning for the past few mornings, including this morning, I just turned on some music and read. I would turn on my phone on airplane mode to keep away all the notifications and whatnot, and just have the first morning I listened to all 5 of Beethoven's piano concertos. The second morning I listened to a few of Mozart's piano concertos, I think number 16 through number 19. And this morning I listened to Mozart's 20th piano concerto, and then I listened to Dvorak's Ninth Symphony and some of the songs of Franz Schubert, or his lieder, however you say them. And so I've just been, sort of enjoying that morning time, just relaxing, being alone with myself and the book and the cat. The cat is here. I'll let her say hi. Yeah. She's kind of liking having me around, although she can get to be a pain after a while when she gets bored, but I have a laser pointer that I like to play with her with. And she's being very cooperative at the moment, so there you go, some Bessie. I'm doing it, and I'm watching movies, too, in addition to reading. I am watching films. I've watched 3 films so far, and I intend to keep watching some. So, on last Friday, I watched Lincoln, directed by Steven Spielberg, with a screenplay by Tony Kushner, actually, the author of Angels in America, and of course, starring Daniel Day-Lewis and Sally Field and Tommy Lee Jones, and I really like it. It's, for me, a bit of a this film, I like it. Again, obviously the performances are excellent. I think the script is really good. However, it does, for me, lack some coherence, I feel like. Like, I'm not quite sure what story we're supposed to focus on in this film. Because we obviously have this great portrait of Lincoln that comes out of it, with the great central performance by Daniel Day-Lewis. We learn a little bit about his background and his life, the death of his son Willie, and his Emancipation Proclamation, which happened a few years before this film takes place. We learn a little bit about his relationship to Mary Lincoln, who is played by Sally Field, played really, really well. I think, a lot is made of Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in this film, but I think Sally Field is just as good. But then we also have this second story of Tommy Lee Jones's character, who is this Senator Thaddeus Stevens, this radical. And we focus on him quite a bit. And then we have the Civil War happening, and we see Ulysses S. Grant a few times. And I don't know, there's just a little bit of lack of coherence in terms of, like, what we're supposed to be focusing on in the story. Is this about Lincoln? Is it about racism? Is it about politics? Is it about, I don't know. It's just, there's a little, but it's a great film. I'm not really criticizing it. Anyway, and that sort of connects to one of the books that I finished recently, which I have talked about a few times already. It's a Team of Rivals, The Political Genius of Abraham Lincoln by Doris Kearns Goodwin, which was published in 2005, I believe. And this is... so the film Lincoln is based loosely on parts of this book. So this book is sort of a collective biography of Abraham Lincoln and his cabinet, so they're all there on the back. So there's Edwin Stanton, William Seward, Salmon Chase, and Edward Bates. And the book is kind of biographies of all those men, to an extent biographies of the women in their lives, of Mary Lincoln, of Frances Chase, who's Salmon Chase's... Or no, it's not Frances Chase. Frances Seward, who is William Seward's wife, who's kind of a really interesting proto-feminist kind of person. And then Kate Chase, the daughter of Salmon Chase, who was like kind of the brain behind his political campaigns. And this book is just awesome. It was a buddy read with Patrice Jones, who I'm sure many of you know. She's a regular commenter on a lot of channels, and this book is just awesome. Just really gripping and exciting to read. Really well written, scholarly, but like still fun to read. And it's probably the first work of history that's ever like made me emotional. History is not a genre that I go to like feel feelings, but the last like 50 or so pages of this book in particular really brought out some powerful writing on the part of Doris Kearns Goodwin, it really moved me at the end, talking about Lincoln's death and the lives of his cabinet and his wife after he died. His wife lived an incredibly sad life after he died. She had already lost, I think, 2 children, and she lost a third after Lincoln died. And yeah, I just can't imagine. And then she was committed to an insane asylum for a lot of the rest of her life. I just can't imagine. But yeah, just this book is a great, history of the Civil War. It's great on politics of the 19th century. It's great on, the causes of the Civil War. It's a great portrait of Lincoln, really. He just is a fascinating man. I can't wait to read like a full-dress biography of him. Another film I watched the other day was The House of Mirth. This is the adaptation of the novel of the same name by Edith Wharton and directed by Terence Davies. This is a made-for-TV film. I think it's from 1999. I'm not going to be able to find the date, but it's like late 90s or maybe early 2000s. And I liked it. It was really, really good. Pretty well acted, I think. It does have Laura Linney in it, and I really like Laura Linney. And Gillian Anderson as Lily Bart is really, really good. I did find some of it maybe a bit stilted. Made-for-TV films, I don't know. There's some sort of rough around the edges aspect to them that I don't always love in comparison to feature films. But still, really, really good. Really faithful to the book, basically every plot point is in there. So I did like it. I didn't love it as much as I hoped, especially since I actually spent a lot of money on this DVD, because it's not an easy film to find, I have to say. It's not like on Amazon or anything like that. So it's maybe a bit of a shame that I spent that much money on a film that I kind of sort of liked, but anyway. And then yesterday I watched Gravity for the first time. This is a film that seems like everyone's seen, except for me. Directed by Alfonso Cuaron. I think it came out in 2013, and it absolutely lived up to the hype. I thought it was just gorgeously done. I love Alfonso Cuaron. I've seen 4 of his films now, although one of them I saw so long ago. It's The Little Princess. I saw it so long ago that I don't really have many memories of it. Almost to a point where it doesn't make much difference that I have seen it. But I remember really liking The Little Princess. And the other films I've seen of him, Children of Men and Y Tu Mamá También, I both loved. So I look forward to looking at more of Alfonso Cuarón's films. But so those are the films I've watched so far. I also have another stack of DVDs that I might watch over the course of the vacation in the coming weeks. So I have A Streetcar Named Desire with Marlon Brando and directed by Elia Kazan. This is The Godfather. Can you believe I have not seen The Godfather? Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, of course. And then I also have The Godfather Part 2, which I obviously also have not seen. I have here District 9. This is directed by Neill Blomkamp. At the Piano, directed by Jane Campion. And then Psycho, obviously directed by Alfred Hitchcock, which, can you believe, I also haven't seen. And then Gattaca with Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke, and this is directed by... directed by Andrew Niccol. I also have 20 Great Westerns. This is a bunch of films with John Wayne, Charles Bronson, Lee Van Cleef, and Jack Palance. And none of them are films I think anyone will have heard of. They're all kind of just they're kind of westerns that you would see on TV Saturday mornings. They're not like, there's no The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There's no Once Upon a Time in the West or True Grit or anything like that. But I don't know. I saw it at the Goodwill one day and thought it might be fun. I watched one of them and it was okay, but and then I also have a box set of George Bernard Shaw plays on DVD. So this is Mrs. Warren's Profession, The Millionairess, Pygmalion, Heartbreak House, The Devil's Disciple, and Arms and the Man. And then I also have George Bernard Shaw on film, which is Major Barbara, Caesar and Cleopatra, and Androcles and the Lion. So, anyway. Again, no idea which one of these I may or may not watch, but there it is. Another book that I did finish, and which I want to highly recommend to you guys, is this, Freethinkers, History of American Secularism by Susan Jacoby. This was published, I think, also in 2005, the same as Team of Rivals. And it's about the long and rich tradition of freethinkers in America. And freethinkers are sort of just a sort of catch-all term that Susan Jacoby uses for people who, you know, sort of question everything. Question religion, question the old sort of systems of oppression that may have little to do with religion in the first place, but are supported by religion. Basically, people who adhere to the Enlightenment values, you know, Enlightenment secular humanism. And she just tells the story of the long history that has in America, starting with the Constitution, of course, which doesn't mention God once, and with all of the Founding Fathers, most of whom were, if not explicitly non-religious, were only very vaguely religious, and perhaps not practicing, even if they did believe in a sort of God. And moving forward through freethinkers like Robert Ingersoll and Thomas Paine, and the abolitionist movement and the feminist movement, both of which were highly influenced by the freethinker movement and were highly secular and often very critical of religion. And a strong current running through this book is that there have been a lot of people in American history who are critical of religion, much as nowadays we're sort of spoon-fed this idea that America is this, you know, Christian nation, is this super religious country, and there is data to show that we are one of the most religious, first world countries in the world. This provides basically a picture of American history that shows that is actually more a product of the late 20th and 21st century than it is necessarily the norm in American history. There have been a lot of, again, prominent people who are very critical of religion, and explicitly non-religious and atheist and agnostic throughout American history, and they've been very important in protecting civil liberties often, and also fighting for progressive values. Again, the feminist movement, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony and Ernestine Rose were three prominent sort of feminist leaders who were also, to varying degrees, critical of religion, especially Stanton and Rose. Rose was like an explicit atheist, like not only explicitly atheist, but like very almost new, not quite new atheist style critical of religion, but very harsh on religion. And Stanton published this book that was called The Women's Bible, which basically just dissects the whole Bible and so many of the aspects of it that are so misogynistic and patriarchal. And the abolitionist movement too. And Susan Jacoby talks about how we've sort of allowed the narrative of the abolitionist movement to be appropriated by people who she calls proponents of religious correctness, who say that the abolitionist movement was led by pastors and religious people who believed it was, you know, against God's commandments to encourage slavery. And she emphasizes that, yes, there were some like that, but most of the people who were most vocal about abolitionism were highly secular, were highly critical of religion, and one of the aspects of religion that they were highly critical of was the fact that religion, on the whole, upheld not only slavery, but a lot of traditional hierarchies, including the patriarchy, and including racial hierarchies once slavery was abolished. And And yeah, it's just fascinating. It's awesome. And Susan Jacoby is just a great writer. Just so many great sentences in the book. It's not that long. It's under 400 pages, but she covers so much in here. I mean, again, she goes right from the founding of the United States right up until the Bush administration. And it's kind of terrifying to listen to her discuss the Bush administration, because everything she says about the Bush administration applies only more to our current administration, where we have a vice president who, in a heartbeat, would have the United States be a theocracy if he could, and more than almost half of Congress would, leap at the chance to instate that as well. And our president would, probably support that too. It's hard to know because he's such a nihilist, but he would probably, if it was advantageous to him, he would probably support that as well. So yeah, anyway, I just really recommend it. I wish I could do a more, thorough review of it, because it is such a good, important book. But I'm just, again, not feeling the energy. There's also, going to be, the Metropolitan Opera has, canceled all performances through the end of March, at least. And to make up for that, what they're doing is they're putting recordings of old performances, of old live stream performances of various operas, up on their website, every evening at around, I think, 6:30 my time, but 7:30 Eastern time. And I'm going to be watching some of those. Tonight they're doing Carmen, which I'm really looking forward to. Tomorrow they're doing La Bohème, which should be great. And then Thursday they're doing La Traviata. Or no, Il Trovatore they're doing. And then I think Thursday they're doing La Traviata. And then I think Friday they're doing La Fille du Régiment by Donizetti. And then I think Saturday, I think they're doing Lucia di Lammermoor by Donizetti, and then I think Sunday they're doing Eugene Onegin by Tchaikovsky. And I love La Bohème, I love Carmen, I love Eugene Onegin. I'm not such a big fan of Verdi, but I think I'm going to watch Il Trovatore at least, and we'll see about the Donizetti. I'm not the biggest fan of Italian opera, I have to say, except for Puccini and some of Rossini. But anyway, so, yeah, anyway, so I'll be doing that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I hope you're all doing okay. I mean, I hope you're all physically okay. If you're not physically okay, I hope you're, taking care of yourself. If you are physically okay, I hope you're, observing all the basic recommendations that we've all heard over the course of the past week. And, I hope you're coping well with social isolation. I assume, being book people, that we're all probably totally cool with shutting ourselves away and not talking to anyone. So, anyway, I will, this is a long video, I'm sorry, but I will leave it at that. And anyway, I hope you all have a good quarantine, if you're forced to stay home, or if you're just staying home, to observe social distancing. And anyway, I just wish you all best of luck in the coming months. It's all very kind of uncertain and kind of nerve-wracking sometimes. But again, I think it's just important to find a way to get through it without freaking out. Yes, we should absolutely be taking all the precautions we've been told about, but also we need to just take care of our mental health, stay, try to, yeah, anyway, just take care of your mental health in the midst of it all. And anyway, I'll let Bessie say goodbye. Yeah, anyway, but I'll let you guys go. I've drawn out this goodbye enough, so see you guys later.